Hello, everyone. My name is Mark from the Misplay Podcast, and you're listening to EternalJourney, everyone's favorite Eternal podcast.
Welcome to EternalJourney, the podcast.
Greetings, all my knights and padawans. You are listening to EternalJourney, the podcast that talks about all things eternal with a focus on limited play. I'm your host, Jedi, and this is episode 92 of the podcast, where we are going to have a special guest. That's right, the the world competitor, been at it since the game started. Collector is going to be on the show today. We're going to be doing a little deep dive into the mind of the Collector and find out what makes him such an amazing Eternal player. And of course, do a slight recap on Worlds as well. But first off, before we introduce him, because, you know, save the best for last, I want to welcome my good friends on the show week after week, starting off with Darth_Herman 2. What's up, Alex?
Good evening, Jedi. Gentlemen, how's it going?
Great, my friend. Had a good draft today, and now I get to hang out with my friends, so why not? Sitting across the internet from him is another great pal and pretty much the strongest player in the podcast. Well, except maybe not today, but John Holio. Hey, friend.
Good evening, gentlemen.
And then, of course, finally finishing off this square fecta, because I don't know what the quadfecta is. It quadfecta, right?
I think that's better.
Is that even a word?
I think you're inventing words. I mean, yeah.
Sweet. There you go. Coined it. All right, cool. Anyways, the the one, the only Collector. Welcome back, buddy.
Thanks for having me back.
Thanks for agreeing to it, man. I thought after the last show we were just going to be done with it, but hey, we're glad to have you. But all right, a couple of things first, some quick housekeeping. I want to give a shout out to all our great friends and followers and listeners and supporters of this show. Anyone that subs to the channel obviously gets a shout out here, and I want to give a shout out to a couple of recurring people. First off, Tyler Cheney, that's right. John Avon in game came in with the 6-month resub today, so shout out to them. Great streamer, tune into them. Speaking of streaming, great good Manda hitting us with the 3-month. Thank you. The Magic Pope, welcome to the Jedi Order. Goliath CB, welcome to the Jedi Order. And then who does that with the 3-month rounding it off? And then, of course, an ongoing thank you to all our great supporters out there. You guys help us keep the lights on and just motivate, these guys to come on the show and put up with me week after week. Of course, you can catch the video version of the show along with other drafts and stuff if you aren't able to catch it live on youtube.com/EternalJourney, where I post videos as well as constructed videos and tournament reports. So you can check that out whenever the 2021 competitive organized play season begins. You guys will be catching that up there, as well as now the Tuesday night Eternal tournaments are coming back, and maybe even our charity event later in the month. But if you want to hang out with us live, chit chat, and watch me punt in real time, check it out at twitch.tv/Jedi_EJ every Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday. All right, guys, that's going to do it for our announcements. So let's go into our pack one, pick one. And Collector, as usual, you are a guest. So we'll start off with you. I'll go ahead and ramble off all of the cards, and then you can pretty much break it down for us, just because we've been here for a minute. We are seeing the draft packs first. So these are all cards that people have seen. And if you're a newer player, then perfect. It's going to build up your collection. So first off, I want to start with the commons. We have Granite Waystone is a fire power, gain a fire influence. Then if you have 4 fire influence, create and draw a 1/1 Grenadin. Kodesh Evangel is a 2/2 Paladin Cleric for 2 Justice. Lifesteal, Fate, gain a Justice influence. Lightning Strike, a 2 Primal Fast Spell, deal 4 damage to an attacking enemy. This also includes phase, so if they have a relic weapon, primarily maybe the Siphon or Paladin 3/3 weapon, they try to hit one of your units, bam, you hit them for 4. Next up, we have Terry T. Towering Terrazon is a 6/5 for 5 time. That's it. Just a generic, good, vanilla, solid unit, well statted. Moving on, Granite Acolyte is a 2/1 Oni for 3 fire. Summon, play a +2 weapon, Iron Sword, a +2 iron sword on one of your units. Ancient Manual, we're not going to talk about that. Reinforced Tower Shield, we're going to go ahead and move right along past that. Scavenge is a 3 shadow slow spell. Play 3 1/1 rats that can't block. Gain fire or justice influence. Of note, the rats are shadow, I believe, right? They're not multicolor, are they?
They are shadow, dirty rats.
They're just shadow? Yeah, okay, cool. And then going into the uncommons, we have 2 displays in this pack. So first off, we have Display of Vision, which is the 3-cost fast spell for time, justice, and shadow is vision. And you get to pick one of 3 modes. First, enemy units get -1/-1 this turn. Or play a power card of your choice from your deck. Or kill an attachment on an enemy. Next up, we have Display of Creation, which is the 3 fire, time, justice fast spell. Draw 2 random sigils from your deck. Or silence each attacking enemy unit. They get a -2 attack this turn. Or give one of your units +2 attack, gain 2 armor. And rounding off the uncommons is First Watch, 5-time slow spell, Nightfall, and you gain 8 life. Womp womp. And then, of course, the rare is Sleepless Night. This is a 7 shadow slow spell with Revenge. Discard your hand and draw 4 cards. All right, then. Collector, what are you looking at in this pack and why?
All right, so to kind of just like break down looking at like the rares and uncommons a little bit, like Sleepless Night is obviously some card advantage, but it costs 7. It's really expensive and slow for what it does, and it like if I'm already deep into Shadow, I might consider taking it, but I don't think I'd ever take it first. For the uncommons, obviously the displays are very powerful cards, but taking 3 faction cards early, they're much more likely to be a dead pick than they are to be making your final deck. Like just so much has to go right in finding the fixing and actually landing in those colors to begin with, that they're generally not worth taking early. And then the First Watch, I'd only ever play if I'm playing the Praxis 5-cost spells matter deck, and I don't have enough 5-cost spells. So like that leaves us with the commons. And from the commons, I'd be looking at Granite Acolyte, the Kodash Evangel, Lightning Strike, and Terrazon. Acolyte is kind of it's just like it's fine. It's like not super powerful. It's just basically a 4/1 that can spread out 2 of its power somewhere else. So not really quite good enough to take. The time card, the Terrazon, it's a large fatty, but time has a lot of those. So you'll probably find more of them later if you end up in time. And it kind of leaves us with Lightning Strike and Evangel. Evangel's nice fixing, and it's an early 2-drop, which is something you always need. But I'd probably just go with the Lightning Strike because it's removal. Removal can be hard to pick up, and it's just always solid to have a removal spell.
You're hired. We'll keep you.
Keep them on.
Yeah, for real. All right. I actually like. Would you actually consider for putting First Watch in a deck?
Yeah, I've actually played it before.
Oh wow! All right, I learned something. Wow, that's pretty. Is it because of the Nightfall or?
No, it's because it's a 5-cost spell.
I think
had like Chandra for Mechanus and like a cannon battery.
Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, yeah, that's pretty legit backup. Or yeah, that okay. I could see that. Let's go send it over to you, Alex.
I mean, Collector broke that down pretty masterfully. And it's pretty underwhelming pack, I think, just generally. So the Lightning Strike is just probably the safest pick, I think.
All right, John?
Yeah, he did just I would say, perfect job breaking down this pack. I think, like, it is between the Evangel and the Lightning Strike for me, and I think, just lean towards the Evangel. Maybe it's just a preference for Justice in the format, or just just a feeling or something, but I think Lightning Strike is probably the correct pick.
All right, well then I'm gonna be the oddball. I like Evangel, but yeah, I don't know. I like Terry T. I think just yes, you're right, Collector. Justice or Time does have a lot of big units, but something about Terry T, it really facilitates you being aggressive. And I don't know. So that's the end of what I took there. I like Lightning Strike, but I also feel like you can get a critical mass of them fairly easy if Primal's open. I think they kind of flow. They're weighted, and I think people don't value them enough, even though they kill quite a lot in this format, including Sapphire Dragon Drake and Smogwing Tinker. So
and relic weapons.
Yeah, and relic weapons.
It's always really nice.
And it helps kind of battle combat tricks. So I definitely think there's some value there as well. And the Kodash Evangel. I like how all three of us were off of displays because, like there's fixing there. And both of these displays do have time in them, which if there's ever a faction that will facilitate playing a display, that's it. But yeah, I think this format still really wants you to lock in 2 colors. And so the displays are not a very good first pick. But I do like the fact that we actually all had different opinions there. I like that. I don't think any of us were wrong. I mean, if anything, maybe me. I will say, though, in a vacuum, Terry T does beat Lightning Strike and Kodash Evangel. Just throwing that out there. But all right.
True.
In a vacuum, you won't have any powers. None of them do anything.
Fair. All right, fine. I mean, no, actually, Kodash Evangel does give you an influence, so there you go. And I guess
halfway there.
Yeah. So I guess in a true vacuum, Kodash Evangel is the only one that does something.
Sure.
All right, guys. Jeez, how are you able to like completely condescend my entire argument with just one? Sure.
That's why he's the collector, man.
Yeah, clearly. All right. Well, like we alluded to earlier, that's our pack one pick one. We have Collector back on the show because one, he's just a great guy to have on the show. But he did compete in Worlds and did a phenomenal job. He's gone to Worlds both times that they've had it. I will say this though, this is not going to be a completely in-depth interview because honestly, Collector was on Friends of Eternal with Sunnyvale, and I think they did an absolute amazing job breaking down everything. So I definitely do encourage you to go and check out that interview because they also had Stormblast as well as Sunny and Boxer on there, which was just great. I really enjoyed that show. So kudos to you guys for making that happen. But all right, like I said, we're going to break this up into 2 parts. We're going to lightly touch on Worlds a little bit to get the perspective on that because maybe some of you did not know, like the inside scoop. And then from there, we're going to dive into our main topic, which is trying to understand Collector's thought process on how he breaks down plays and just overall why he just ends up making these great plays time and time again to get those extra win percentage points and just be a consistently amazing player.
Yeah, we can't have Collector on and not talk about Worlds just a little bit. First off, just a little bit about yourself, I guess, generally. How long have you been playing Eternal, and what is your favorite format?
So I signed up for Eternal in the closed beta, but I didn't want to participate when they're going to be wiping collections, when they went to open, so I didn't really play much until open beta. So basically the entire length the game has been around. I've been playing. And then favorite formats tend to go between like draft and expedition, just depending on which one I've been playing too much of recently.
Right on. Now, regarding Worlds specifically, how did you qualify for Worlds? Like, where did your points come from?
So back in May, there was an expedition ECQ. That was the one where Jack had been released relatively recently and was tearing everything up. And so my team, Eternal Titans, I think it was actually not Team Rank Star. We both kind of had Chonk Crag, which is just a Sky Crag deck with a ton of X5s and Jack and no other creatures, so that opposing Jacks couldn't get any value. And that managed to get me to first. So
then that was all you needed to qualify for Worlds, right?
Yep. Just getting first in the ECQ got me there. Yeah.
Nice. Very smooth little quick way in there. It's nice. What went into the creation of the Vision Value deck?
So I don't remember the deck's early origins too well. It was either like Stormblast or GT came with the initial draft of the deck because they wanted to use Know Thy Enemy, that 4-cost spell that has Amplify to get a 5-drop or less from the top 5 cards of your deck. And we just worked on refining the deck from there and got it to a point where the mana felt good, which can be tough for a 3-faction deck that has 4 Justice, 3 Time, like 2 Shadow you need, and then teched it a little bit for the mirror because we expected some other grindy decks and just went off from there. So
from this Worlds, specifically? Any like memorable moments that stand out to you that you like want to recollect on, or I guess it stood out. Any I mean, you made a bunch of, what were they saying, heads up plays. I think you have the most heads up plays out of anyone. And
Yeah, I think that chart had me at the top or close to the top of the chart, but
Yes.
the just the entire matches versus Boxer and Ace, on their unitless control decks, like I do think that matchup is generally favored for the control deck, and I thought I'd be lucky to take any games off Boxer, and we got it to really close, and I barely edged him out, and then Ace barely edged me out in the next round.
those are something that goes into like a negative for either you, or positive playing someone that you like would know so well, that you kind of basically test with.
There's not really a negative or positive playing against them. Like the positive, if it's not like, and it's still in, like the Swiss rounds, it's like, well, when we had a rank versus each other, we're on the same team. We are 2-0 versus each other. It's like, well, one of us qualifying for sure, so I guess that's good at least. Like the only negative would be at like, if me and like say like Stormblasted versus each other in the top 4, but then that's 2 of us in top 4 and one of us automatically going through the finals. It's not that bad. So
That's a good positive way to look at it there. You just pass it on to Jedi and pick Collector's brain a little bit more about specific Eternal play.
So, Collector, you have been known as the person that people are okay losing to because you are a threat, and people know just your skill set is renowned across the board, both in limited and in constructed. You consistently throw up great tournament results, and I mean, you're just watching you on televised or broadcasted tournaments. People see some of the best Eternal being played. And it's just so consistent that you've got to be doing something. You find these lines, even when you're hanging out in other people's chat, as well as mine when we're streaming, you're able to pick these lines and kind of identify plays, even not only like in retrospect, but sometimes even faster than when I'm thinking out loud and stuff like that. Granted, it doesn't say that much to outsmart me, but besides the point, and you're able to justify it. And so I feel like the community as a whole can benefit from just some of the things that you use, maybe not heuristics essentially, but what your thought process, or get an understanding of that. Like obviously there's a million factors that go into it and every game is different, et cetera, but if we can somehow break down some of the things where maybe your starting points and how you start seeing these lines and how you practice, I think a lot of people can benefit from it, because at the end of the day you're still ahead of everyone on practice and application of it, so it's going to take a while for everyone to catch up, but it's useful. I mean, right, the organized play is there. People want to get better. I mean, John and myself both want to take down a tournament at some point. And so, and just drafting as well. Like like I said, it's consistent across the board. It's not with just one archetype. It's not with one format. Like you're just a phenomenal player. So let's start off kind of a little bit of self-reflection. What do you think is your defining trait when it comes to like gameplay?
I don't know. That is kind of tough to answer. Like, I think part of it is being able to, like, kind of read what, not, like, obviously not perfectly, but trying to, like, read what your opponent actually has, what they're going to try to do next, and, plan accordingly.
So just to help you out a little bit. So do you think, like we've talked about before, having a plan, right? Knowing what you want to do in the upcoming turns, so you're not just kind of playing the best play that turn, because it may be counterintuitive to do something that'll benefit you more in the future, but you actually take that a step further and break that down or apply that kind of logic and mentality to your opponent as well. So not only are you thinking your next 3 or 4 turns, but also what your opponent's trying to do.
Yeah, I'm definitely trying to. It's a lot easier in open deckless tournaments because all of the cards that they've have in their deck, the cards that they've played, and what they could possibly draw. Like while I'm in a tournament, I will have my I have my deck list memorized pretty much. I never open it up, but I have my deck list open. And then I also have a screenshot of my opponent's deck list so that I can know, like, okay, like, I've just played my Wump. I know that they have a Vanquisher when it flips. They could have the 1 of Just Desserts, and then like the 3 Defiances or whatever. But they've already used 2 of them, so like just kind of like being really aware of what I have left that I can do, what they have left, and like how they've been playing the game up to that point for what they're likely to have.
Mm-hmm. And now, so you mentioned open deck lists. How do you apply that kind of mindset or strategy to limited?
So yeah. So for limited, obviously it's not open deck this, so you can't really play around everything exactly. But like things like rares and legends, like a Shenra Speaks, or some kind of like legendary dragon that's some kind of super bomb. Like unless they've shown it to me before, I will like pretty much never play around them, just because they show up so rarely that you'll lose more games trying to play around Shenra Speaks than Shenra Speaks will blow you out. Uh, there are rare exceptions, like when it's kind of super obvious just from how they've been playing, like they went 1 to 4 on curve and just didn't play a single creature, like um, yeah, like sometimes you can kind of say like, okay, maybe they have it, but for the most part, just never play around the rares and legendaries. Like just make them have it. Um, if you know what commons and uncommons are boosted, you know what's a lot more likely to happen. I can't actually remember what's boosted right now, but like when Rampage was 10 times boosted, like that Rampage was much more likely to hit you in the face than than like a Hoof Slash or something, which I don't think that's in the format right now, but you get the idea. So you could set up your blocks appropriately.
Mm-hmm. Now, you touched on something that I think is very valuable, and something that I go back and forth on myself when I'm trying to break things down. It's kind of like that tipping point where when you first start playing, you're just playing your side of the board. Then the next level, the next evolution of getting better is you start playing what around your opponent. And then the next level after that is knowing when to and when not to play around your opponent's stuff. So can you, once again, I know this is completely contextual, like there's no defining answer, but can you, in your own words, kind of break down when you can afford to play around something and when you just got to make them have it, and when, yeah, I guess that's it. Just when you can play around something, when you can't, and when you just, because, by default, I kind of, if it's a blowout, then I'll try to play around something. But if not, my default is typically to just make them have it. But I do think there's a little more intricacies to that. So can you just, in your own words, kind of describe what your rule of thumb is for that kind of scenario?
So you can generally afford to play slower and play safer when you think that your deck is the one that goes long, that either has the better top end or the better card advantage to get you there. Sometimes you might misevaluate that, especially in draft, because there's just a lot more variance there than constructed, where you pretty much know where you're sitting. But yeah, so like if my deck is one that has like my deck the other night, I had a Sky Crag Dragons deck. I had like 2 Sapphire Dragons, 2 of the 7/4 Dragons, like a couple of the 0/4 Totas that die into a dragon. So like I had the better flying top end for the most part. So I could afford to play slower. Like I don't need to worry as much about trying to like chip in damage so I can burn them out later. Because I would control their creatures, remove the guys in the air, let the ground stall, and just kill them by attacking with fires. Where on the other hand, like where you can't afford to take that more passive, safer route sometimes, is like if you drafted a like Rakano aggro deck, like your biggest creature is like 3/3, and then like you drafted like 2 5/3s, in the 5-drop slot. Like you're not gonna go bigger than like that time opponent traversing. So you have to figure out when, like, obviously attack early, but when is it appropriate to just kind of throw away my units into theirs to deal in like 3, 4, 5 extra points of damage so that I can top deck that Darkfire to kill them or whatever.
Yeah, no, that's great. I appreciate that. Like I said, it's one of those finite things where you have to break down per scenario to kind of get there, but at the same time, I think you did a great job of kind of showing the bigger strokes. And you're right. I think once again, looking at the bigger picture in the head. It's all about the game plan that your deck has. So Speaking about lines of play, what do you have a system as far as how you start to identify various lines of play and then are able to kind of decide which one is the best one? Or is that just kind of, you just do it naturally? Like, I mean, you're lightning fast at it, so I'm assuming your brain is just processing so much, but is there any kind of methodology that comes into play?
Yeah, a lot of it does just kind of come naturally just because I've been playing Eternal and a bunch of other card games just for so long that I'm used to kind of just shortcutting a lot of these decisions in my head. But occasionally spots come up where it's like, okay, which way is going to make me more likely to win the game? And that's where you gotta like really start thinking about like, okay, I'm playing that Arcano deck. I have like one Rampage, two Darkfires, and some other things. Like, how can I win this game from this point with what's left in my deck? Um, like kind of use that Arcana deck example. Like I had Flameheart Patrollers, like one in play, and I had two Red Mask Warriors. Like I could have thrown away a couple of them to like deal them like 3 or 4 extra points of damage, but I knew that if I drew one of my 3 Darkfires, I could play my power, get 6 surges, grow my Flameheart Patroller to be, was that plus 14, so 15 power and 15 them in the face. So like just holding back, keeping the ground stalled, until I drew that, it ended up winning me the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like one thing that I'm trying to get better at myself, which is I keep trying to kind of incorporate that into my breakdown, is can I kill, do I have lethal on board? And because I have missed lethal sometimes. The biggest one is kind of misidentifying who's the beatdown, where I'll be the control player for, X amount of turns, and then there's a turn where all of a sudden my opponent misinterpreted the math or whatnot, and I have a chance to take lethal and I might miss it, which may or may not cost me the game. And there's sometimes where I have been able to like, wait a minute, can I just win here? And I do. And so that's one of the things I'm kind of trying to start getting into my thought process, where I'm consistently, okay, can I kill them? Because sometimes, it's easy to kind of look for that when they're at 3 or 4, but sometimes you can work it out when they're at 12 or 9 or something like that. Is that like starting point ever kind of there for you, or literally it's every kind of line is like unique just because you are thinking so far ahead?
Like, so I guess your question is like, do you ever like just realize like, oh, I have lethal, or
like is there a starting point when your methodology, when you're starting to break down your turns and whatnot?
Yeah, I mean, like, it's always just kind of coming down to like, what is my plan to kill them? And sometimes, it's going to be like a space for 2 turns, like you get in those last couple chips of damage, then like, chemical rounds them in the face or something. Like just know how you're going to win. Like, don't be afraid to sometimes go, okay, like, if I do this and the next turn I can do this and then I win. But if they have exactly like pump spell into unbreakable tradition, I die. Like, they're unlikely to have that, especially if they haven't shown you pauses, prior to that. So just kind of like, don't play too scared, I guess.
Yeah. The biggest thing I'm taking away from this is I feel like you're really weighing heavy on your deck's game plan, where because you think so far ahead, everything revolves around that. And I think that's great. I think that's definitely something to know, because I have fallen victim to that sometimes, where I know my deck wants to do X, Y, Z, but sometimes I start getting wrapped up in the way the game plays out, where I think that might be where you start kind of setting yourself up for success, where maybe that's where I falter, right? Where I'm like, well, if I had played a little different the last 2 turns, then this turn would have been a lot better. Let's take, for example, your Legion deck that you took to Worlds. So like, what overall game plan did you have when you were like kind of taking in your turns there? Were you trying, is it like, I wanted to get to the late game, I need to defeat this card, because once again, I do know we're going open deck list, but like, was your thought process any different during those type of scenarios?
Yeah, like the deck has kind of like 2 general game plans that I can do. Is like, play like a Wump or 2 early and just kind of ride that to victory by saving it for removal with Pause, Reflection, and Dazzle, and as well as like, get to the late game, drop a Helio, play a Dural, deal them like 12 damage to the face by casting spells. And you have to switch between the 2 sometimes, and like kind of identify which plan you were on. Like I think my first game against the boxer, he mulliganed to 6, and I had a wump or 2 in my opening hand. I was like, all right, I'm just slamming it as soon as I can, and if he has removal spell, he has it. But if he doesn't, he's gonna die in like 3 turns. And he didn't have the removal spell, and managed to ride that to victory. Whereas like the games against Ace, I think those were like 25 turn slogs, where like he we weren't able to slam an early wump and ride that to victory. We had to like slowly ration our resources out, so that way he'd like harsh roll a single unit instead of 2 for wanting me, and just try to grind him out with that.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, I think that's great. So you mentioned shortcutting. Let's dive into that a little bit. Do you have any kind of heuristics or rules of thumb and stuff that you use on a more consistent basis? And then yeah, let's just go with that there. Do you have anything like that you use more consistently?
Yeah, I think there's the kind of the old Magic staple of bolt the bird, meaning like if you have the option of killing a thing that's ramping them, it's often correct to just do that. People often keep hands that are low on power because they have that ramp, and generally if they're playing ramp, they're playing a bunch of big things. So killing that Trailmaker, killing that Initiate of the Sands or whatever can set them back 2 to 3 turns often. So like do things like that. Let's see, like
With Baby Ikaria.
Yeah, like Baby Ikaria, if you have the snowball, like you could have played like Wump turn 2 maybe, but if you had the snowball it instead. You'll be much happier you got rid of their like ramp plus potential hand buff than just getting an extra snowball, maybe Wump flipping a turn earlier. I'm trying to think of what other like common shortcuts that I use.
Do you have any for combat tricks as far as, well, I mean, I guess it could cross over to constructed as well, but like limited? Like, for example, I came across today in stream where I intentionally slowed down, like threw off my curve to leave up Omri's Choice. And ironically, the one time that I didn't do that, I got punished for it. But that's one of the things, like there's certain combat tricks where I feel like, obviously, especially if my opponent's on some type of fire-based removal or combat trick, that leaving up the combat trick, I think is worth the potential blowout versus curving out. And once again, I do understand it's contextual. It can change based on the scenario, but that's kind of my thing. There's certain combat tricks where once I have them and I have a decent board, I try to leave up the whole time. Is there anything like that you use as well?
Yeah, like with combat tricks, I'll often try to force opponents to use it in the least favorable way for them. So like, if they're attacking with like a 3-2, I'll put my 2-2 on it to try to get them to use it there. Because if they do, yeah, they save their 3-2, but it's just a 1-for-1 trade. They're not getting advantage out of it. If like instead they have a 4-4 and I have to block with my 3-1 and 2-2, and then they give it +3/+3, like they just got a 2-for-1. So like if I can either force situations where they just have to use their trick now because they can't keep holding it up because they want to play their other things, or if sometimes it works out that you can, play around in such a way where they have to continually leave something up. I've been in situations where, you, like maybe they were mana screwed earlier, you got an early lead on board, and you're attacking in. Then there was things like that old spell that was like the 4 mana, kill a attacking unit if it's not night. You save your nightfall for when they hold that open, or just don't attack if it's not night, because they can't play anything because they have to hold open 4 mana. Like, you just knowing when to force out the trick and try to wear, and when to just play around it. I don't know. It's hard to actually say a shortcut for it, just because like it's so dependent on the game. But...
Mm-hmm. Here's one that I actually had issues with. So this one's maybe more public, but it's definitely a personal one of mine. You've identified they have Defiance, right? Not 100%, but you're pretty sure they have it. Do you just run it like they're always going to have it? It's too easy to leave up 1 power. So I just slam into it because I'm like, very rarely am I ever going to stunt their curve by forcing them to leave up 1 power. Where are you at on that as far as Defiance goes?
So it, like, in draft or constructed?
Both.
Okay, so for draft, I will often just, attack into Defiance just because it's going to eat something eventually anyway. I'll maybe save my better 3 drops until it is gone. But, it will eat something, like, you just might as well make them use it. And then for constructed, it kind of depends. When it's just like a unitless control deck or something, if you can force it on their turn that they have the option of like defiancing or casting wisdom, you can force them to waste their 2 extra mana that they held open by attacking with and making them use the defiance. So like if you can use that like kind of tempo advantage to your favor, like you should do so. Not obviously not all decks can capitalize on that, but you know, uh, making people play off curve can definitely yield big results.
Okay. And now, so one of the things I mentioned earlier is obviously you start to play around your opponents and then you start to learn when not to. So what are, like, how, I'm trying to think of how to word this correctly. And I guess this is just a difficult topic to kind of break down in general. I should have just had a bunch of what's the plays for you, but you have these heuristics, like for example, always bolt the bird and stuff like that. What are some of the things you use or techniques you do or things that you have identified or weighed in that lets you know when to go against the grain on these heuristics that you've kind of autopiloted into your subconscious?
I guess the way to say it would be when it doesn't matter anymore. So like, you're playing against like Xenon in Constructed and they like on turn 7 play a Trailmaker. Most of the time that 1 extra power is not going to matter anymore, so you're not going to kill it. You'll know if it does because like, they marked it for a bar or something earlier and you're pretty sure that's what they grabbed and like they were at 7 for 5 turns. So maybe you kill it. But on turn 7, going from 7 to 8 with the Trailmaker is not going to be a big deal anymore. Or if they went like turn 1 Initiate of the Sands, turn 2 Initiate of the Sands, Trailmaker, well, suddenly they're going to be at 7 power on turn 3, maybe 6 if you kill one. But, their deck curves out at 6 anyway, so, wasting your whole turn to kill the one Initiate of the Sands is going to do anything anymore. So you might as well develop your hand or board in some other way.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I guess the best way, like, you go against the shortcuts when, like, more unique situations pop up, right? Which is why they're shortcuts. Like, they're good most of the time, but, when something unexpected happens, it's not good anymore.
So let me throw this scenario at you because this is something I came across today and it ended up paying off to a certain extent, but it doesn't always. And so going back to limited, right? Sometimes you just want to run out your bomb and force your opponent to have an answer to get there. But I tend to just falter in my luck and know that my opponent always has an answer for my bombs. So we had a Rolling Solid Guard, which is the 5/5 flyer for 6 with lifesteal. And we also had a Smogwing Tinker in hand. And my opponent was on Xenon, I believe, ironically, and they had not played a Cut Ties yet. And they didn't have a flyer. We were kind of even on board, more or less. And so I had the opportunity to run out. Oh, they had a Waystone Gate. So they were going to be able to hit their power and then play an 8/8 giant.
Right.
I had the choice to play the Smogwing Tinker or play the Rolling Honor Guard because they're both obviously 6-cost flyers. One's a 5/5, one's a 4/4. But of course, going up against Xenon, it's not really damage-based removal. So anything that they had was going to be able to take out either of them equally, regardless. So it's not like I could leave a combat trick, etc., etc. So I chose to run out the Smogwing Tinker as I felt like it was still a viable threat that would force my opponent to come up with an answer. And so that would potentially bait out the removal so then I could drop the real bomb, which is the Rolling Honor Guard. But the argument to that as well is if I could play the Honor Guard and they don't have an answer to it, then it's just going to steamroll the game because it's gaining lifesteal as well as taking chunks of 5 out of their, of life per turn. So that was my thought process behind it. And then the subsequent turn, I had a chance to save the Smogwind Tinker. They had a lightning strike, which obviously well, no, that didn't work out. Now I'm getting my anyways, I apologize. I digress. So that was my thing where I kind of went against the grain a little bit and led with my decent threat instead of my bomb. How would you approach that scenario?
Honestly, I think it kind of touches on another shortcut that I use that, like, at least in limited, if you have two cards that are like close to each other in power level and you're pretty sure they have a removal spell, play the slightly weaker one first, because if it's threatening enough, they will remove it. And so I probably would have led with the Smogwing as well, because 4/4 flyer is pretty threatening. I don't know, like, what was their life total at there? Like, still in the 20s or?
We were both somewhere between like 18 and 22, somewhere in there.
Yeah, so like I just leave with Smogwing, and like there's a decent chance they remove it. And if they do, then your Honor Guard is much more likely to live, and that negates the 8/8 attacking you much better than the 4/4 does. That's kind of like a reason why I like playing Mechanist. I know a few people who hate that card because they never get a chance for him because the opponent always removes it or silences it or whatever. But like, what they don't realize, or like what they're refusing to realize, is that like they use their like cut tie, like they use their silence on it or something, but now they're not going to silence your 4/4 flyer that you're about to play. Like, they silence your 2-drop, which was normally just a 2/1 anyway. Like, you might not even play any 5-drop spells in your deck.
Yeah, you're completely correct. The 2-drops get outclassed very easily in limited and in constructed for the most part. And so anytime they use a valuable resource, like even today, we had one of my will breakers was killed. My opponent thought it was okay to trade it with an alchemist. I happily took that trade. I was like, sure, okay. Or, when a 2/2 slams into a 2/2 and then they use a barrel through to keep their 2/2 alive, you're perfectly okay trading a 2/2 for a combat trick. Go ahead.
Yeah, I guess the way to say this would be, don't be afraid to try to like bait out the removal with semi-high value targets to protect your even higher value targets.
Mm-hmm. Let's look at the flip side to that, actually. How obviously premium removal is something that is very valuable and limited. And so do you have any kind of, once again, heuristics or kind of things that you look at when you try to figure out when you're going to pull the trigger on your removal or to save it?
Yeah, generally it's can I deal with this? So like if I'm playing like a Praxis deck that has like maybe one tower top patrol in it or something, like just absolutely no flyers, I will save all of my removal to kill flyers, like no matter what the ground unit is. Just because I can block ground units, I can multi-block them. Like, you played your 8/8 giant, great, I'll just put my 5/5 and my 3/5 or something in front of it. But you play like a 2/2 flyer, that thing's gonna kill me. I have to save removal for it. Like, I don't know, if you can't deal with it by blocking with your units, because your units and combat tricks, you can think of them as removal spells. You need to burn the one removal on just cards you can never deal with.
Mm-hmm. All right, last one. Valley Wax Sage. Pay 4 mill or pay 4 draw?
Or Valley Clan Sage, yeah. I mean, it's both, right? So
not for me. Pay 4 mill your bomb. That's what it is for me.
I mean, it does that sometimes, but like aside from drawing, it also has some Q combos you can do with the mill, like Roland's Memorial. If you remember what that card does. It's a 3-mana relic that when a unit goes to your void at the end of your turn, you can give one of your units +X for X number of spells in your void. So you mill a unit, now suddenly it's also going to be a +4/+4 permanently on one of your team members. Or like Trumpeteer, when that was boosted in the packs, you would like pay 4 mill. Oh, I hit a creature. All right, I'll play with Trumpeteer. It's 4/4 now. Like, you can look for edge cases to help be even better. So
of course you would somehow make that card work fine. All right, last one. Actually, there was one I came to mind. I got distracted with Valley Wax Sage. How do you play around deadly units? I fully adopted the mentality, and this was a learning process for me. I used to try to play around. I'm like, well, I don't want to lose my guy. Let me see if I can figure out what to deal with it. I just smash whatever I have into it and get it off the board. As long as it's not my best card, I just run into it and force my opponent to use it at some point. How do you approach deadly units?
Yeah, I'll often do things like that. You can sometimes, like, depending on the opponent, kind of get them in a position where, like, I have a 3/3 and a 4/4 on board. If I attack with just my 3/3, they'll never block it because they want to save it for the 4/4. So I get in like 6-9 points of free damage while they just refuse to take this trade. So if you can kind of tell that your opponent is one of those, or they've done that before, where like you attacked with your 2-drop and you didn't block because you had say a 3-drop, and they're like, oh, that's bigger, so I'm not going to block. Like, you can potentially force in a lot of free damage by holding something back so that they don't block with their deadly unit.
Okay. And actually, I keep saying the last
most
one.
Most of the time, just slam into it.
Yeah, cool, sweet. Appreciate that. Makes me feel better because that is 100% my mentality. I'm just like, forget it, whatever. I'm just gonna keep drawing better things, so I'm just gonna get off the board now because I've missed out on a ton of damage or taken a ton of damage because I've tried to play quote unquote around a deadly unit. One other thing that's popped into my head, which I think could help a lot of people because I come across this quite often. You play a decent unit, your opponent attacks into it, obviously telegraphing they have a trick, like they're attacking their 2/2 into your 3/5 caravan guard. You have a trick in hand, but you're tapped out this turn. Once again, I understand the contextual, what's the life totals at, etc., etc. But if you have a combat trick in hand, do you just take the damage this turn to leave up the combat trick next turn, throwing off your curve, or do you just force them to have it here and you're fine with the trade?
Honestly, like you said, it's kind of contextual. So that one does depend on hand, which one I do. If I have more units that I can play on subsequent turns and use the combat trick eventually on those, I will just block and make them use it, because then they also don't add anything more to the board if they spend the turn doing their trick. So instead of attacking with their 2-drop and then playing their 3-drop and then still having the trick open, they only have their 2-drop on board still. So your next follow-up play is much better on the board. But like if I played that caravan guard and my hand is like power, combat trick, and no other units, I'm definitely waiting because I have nothing to do if this dies. So
Sweet. No, that's great. It's stuff that I definitely take some time, and these are normally the times when I rope or talk to chat to try to figure out, because they're difficult, right? It's once again contextual, and that's the difficult part about it. But I feel like you have a way of breaking things down that's most beneficial for you in the long run, and that's why you just see a more consistent win rate.
Yeah, like that goes to the what I was saying earlier about knowing when to force them to use their combat tricks. Like, they put themselves in the position where they might have to use their combat trick or just lose their unit for free. So like if you have like a 4-drop to play next turn after that caravan guard, like block, make them use it, make them waste their entire turn, and then you get to play your 4/4 for 4 or whatever. So
John, Alex, you guys have anything to add to this one before we move on?
Yeah, I guess okay. Go ahead, John.
Oh, sorry. No, I was just I don't have any more questions. You guys covered a lot of great questions. Just wanted to say congratulations again.
thank you.
For the top performance, man. I really enjoyed watching those games too. Like I think at least two of the games I saw were two of my favorites of the tournament. So great job, man. Congrats.
Thank you.
Regarding heuristics a little bit, or any like rules that you follow, do you have any when it comes to mulliganing or redrawing in either constructed or limited?
Yeah, so I mean, 1 or 6 power, it's almost always a redraw. Like I'll keep a 1 if in addition to that 1, I also have like 2 seek powers or something, so it's really secretly a 3-power hand. But I mean, generally all those just go away. And then for everything else, the 2 or 3 or 4 power hands, it's just like do I kind of have a plan? if I'm playing my really aggressive deck and my hand is like power, seer 4-drop, like 3-drop, I might not keep that because I don't have my 1-drops, I don't have my 2-drops. I have like nothing to do early, and I need to do things early with that aggressive deck. So I guess just keep hands that follow your general plan for your deck. Just be prepared to revise your plan if absolutely needed. So.
One thing that I think a lot of people struggle with, especially in a competitive scene, or when they're on that 6-2, they're in the make or break for a draft, right? Their record 6-2, they're playing their last game, and or day 2 of an ECQ or something like that. People run into things where they misplay or they just get blown out. Sometimes you do everything right, your opponent just has the nut draw and gets to kind of do it's a little more in limited, but it can happen in constructed where one turn can really swing the decision of a game. You, for example, and not to twist the knife in the wound or whatnot, but even mention that your very first game on camera, you had a misplay, but you recovered.
Oh, yeah.
But you recovered. So what are some of the things you do to kind of center yourself, ground yourself, and refocus when you either get completely blown out in combat or something, and or you have a crucial misplay?
Honestly, this might not be very helpful, but I just don't think about it. I put it off until after the match is done, like to, beat myself up about it. But it doesn't help to think about it during the match. Like, okay, the misplay happened. Let's move on. How can I best move forward from here? Like, I just like try not to think about it. Like, yeah, it happened. Whatever. Like, let's move on. I'll yell about it to everyone else in Discord later.
Yeah, you just kind of try to fall back into your rhythm as far as assessing the plays, and whether you made the right play or not, you just jump back into it like, okay, what's damage control? What's the best way for me to win from here?
Yeah, like don't commit to your mistakes so hard that you continue to make incorrect plays that turn because you're embarrassed about your opponent knowing you made an incorrect play. uh, I know people have done that, and like on ladder you see the shame concede sometimes. So like, oh, I misclicked or misplayed. Like, don't want to play this one anymore. But like if you were supposed to play your trove pre-combat, so you could do something, and you like didn't do that for some reason, like if it's still the correct play to play it post-combat, don't be afraid to not play it just because like, oh, then my opponent will know I misplayed. Like, everyone misplays. It's not a huge deal. Like, you guys watched me do it against was it Andreas that one first match? Like, I'm sure me and Ace had some one or two misplays in our game even. I know Boxer and I like talked about a few places that we thought we might have misplayed in our match. Like, it happens everywhere at at every level, so just don't worry about it much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's actually kind of funny because I sort of do the opposite to an extent, where because I've done that very much so, where you just kind of fall into that heuristic where you always do things as late as possible, right? Give your opponent the least amount of information, but sometimes it is correct to do something pre-combat. And I've definitely done that before where I'm like, yep, I totally just missed 2 points of damage and I still just run it out there. But what I do is I kind of to kind of sink it in, and not to be down on myself, but just to see how sometimes those 1 or 2 points matter. I'll remember, I'm like, okay, my opponent should have had 2 extra damage on them. Let's see where we lose this game or win this game at, right? And once again, I don't beat myself up about it. I just use it as a data point of being like, yeah, sometimes this 1 or 2 points matter. And that's kind of how I learned, which actually is a great segue to my last question is, do you have any preferred methods or for improving at Eternal? Like, what do you do when you try to get better? Other than just I know you practice like crazy. I feel like you definitely get your reps in with a deck, because it feels like every time you've talked about a strategy, you kind of know ins and outs and the matchup and whatnot. But what are some of the things you do to get better at Eternal?
So I actually a while back posted kind of a guide on how to improve on the Friends of Eternal Discord. I'll see if I can dig up a link to the post to share with you guys. But
yeah, please, and
like,
I'll put it in the show notes.
There's like a few a few things you can do to like kind of try to up your game. But like one, like figuring out what your weaknesses are and trying to improve those. Like, um, like probably one of the biggest things you can do, just from the top of my head, from I can remember, was um, find people that are at least at your level or better and play with them. Like, if I'm playing on the like throne queue and getting paired against people who are like really worse than me, I'm not gaining anything from that. But like, if you're prepping for a tournament or something, like if you can find people who are better than you, like, play games with them, they demolish you, they go, okay, so, on turn like 4, why did you do this instead of this? And you're like, I don't know. Like, they make you think about, what you were doing and why. And, you can improve that way. Like, oh, like, okay, my thought process was wrong here. I didn't need to do X, Y, and Z. I should have been doing, A, B, C, or things like that. Like, and I know not everyone can get a group of players like that. For other people, like, streaming on Twitch, like, obviously, Twitch chat can be not great sometimes about the lines that they find, but sometimes they do help you out a lot. Like, why did you do this? Like, they're like, oh, I never even thought about doing it the other way, or whatever else. So
Yeah, it's actually kind of cool. Sometimes I don't essentially pat myself on the back, but I feel kind of good when I'll obviously I think out loud when I'm making my plays to talk to you guys, and a lot of times chat will beat me to the correct play. Or I'll just go through like 2 or 3 wrong plays before I get through the best line. But every once in a while, I'll say a line, and then I'll look at chat, and you or John or Alex or Extinction or all the great players in there will Tyler will say the same line that I just came up with. I'm like, oh sweet, good. I'm on the right track. The other thing I'll say to add to that is, don't be afraid to A, be wrong, and B, ask why, even if you think you're right. There's sometimes where someone will say a line like you mentioned in chat, and I don't believe that's the correct line, but I still ask why. I'm like, what is your thought process behind that? And sometimes they might win me over, like, oh, you're right, I didn't think about that. Or it's something like, I don't really think that is the correct line. Like, I don't like the deep. And sometimes you have that discussion where you might still, it's something, a data point that you can put away for later on, where I don't think that's the correct play here, but that's an interesting play to think about later on. So that's just something I get that I value a lot. And then to touch on what you said as far as people not having access with a bunch of great players to play with, join the various discords, like not just the Eternal Journeys, join the Eternal Discord, join Friends of Eternal, Farm Eternal. Every major quote unquote organization or group has a Discord. Join them, ask for the people that you talk to in game already, join, because that's a great place to get random people to discuss, and you match people your time zones and you just get better that way.
yeah, like for all you draft fans, so the Farming Eternal Discord I know has like a what's the play section that's fairly active. Like what's the pick, where they discuss pick 1 pack ones, or like, so am I supposed to take X card like 5th pick or Y card 5th pick? They'll post the pack and what they've already taken, things like that, and it can help you improve your drafting game. And then I found my posts. This kind of like summarized for people who like don't have the time or Discord to actually go look. But play decks outside your comfort zone. So like if you're always an aggro player, go play that control deck. Go play that mid-range deck. You'll expand your skill sets so that when your aggro decks aren't good, you can still pick up another deck and do okay at a tournament. And it's also a lot easier to play against the other decks once you've played as them, so what what you're playing around, like what they need to win their game, and so you can try to work in around that. I had said to like read a bunch of articles and like linked a bunch of Magic ones, because sadly Eternals pretty small, doesn't have a lot of articles about it, but a lot of Magic articles kind of cross apply. Figure out what makes you play worse. So like before a tournament, make sure you're getting enough sleep. Like, do you play a lot worse when you're hungry? Like, do you tunnel vision on certain plays? Like, make sure you eat beforehand or snack during your tournaments. Or like if you tunnel vision, like, actively take a step back and say like, okay, is this still the right play? Like, it was the right play a turn ago for me to do it now, but is it still the right play? Did things change? I know that I occasionally have the problem with tunnel visioning, like what I did with Atreus there in that first round. Um, for an actual tournament, just jam the decks you expect to see against each other. It'll help you figure out, how to actually play them all. Recording your matches can help. Like, if you don't have someone else to play with, recording your matches can help, because you can go, okay, what lines worked, what lines didn't. And remember, just because a line worked doesn't mean necessarily that it was the right line. It's just that, or for that matter, that line didn't work, that it was the wrong line. And then deck choice and tuning for an actual, like, for a non-draft tournament, the deck you bring is probably like 60% of the entire tournament, at least. If you bring a bad deck for the field, like, it's going to be a lot harder to do well. So.
And then lastly, listen to podcasts.
Yes. I didn't write that stuff in there, but you should do that too. That would kind of go under like the articles part, like seek outside resources to help you improve your game.
Sweet. Well, that's excellent. I think we'll call it a wrap there. Thank you so much, Collector, for all the insight. I do appreciate it. I know some of the questions and knowledge or topics was a little difficult, but I mean, you're a great player and you're consistent, so I think a lot of people can value from any of your insight when possible.
Hopefully I didn't ramble too much there, so.
Not in the slightest. Not in the slightest. All right, that's going to take us to our What's the Play. So this one's actually pretty fresh in my mind. It's something that I had to do today. So shout out to Jason Paul. Had some very close games with them recently here this week in draft. It's come down to the wire. They've taken it down both times. This one, I thought I had the upper hand, and then they back-to-back snapped me into oblivion, and the tempo immediately swung. I think there were a lot of lines in this one, so I screenshotted it, went back, screenshotted it, and now I'm going to break it down for you guys. So, ironically, now looking at it, we're both on tradition, so that's kind of cool, which is Time Justice Primal. Life totals. Jason is at 8, and we are at 4. On the board is on Jason Paul's side is a Will Breaker, the 1/2 double damage, the silenced 5/3 battery mage, and then a 1/5 siphoner. On our side of the board is a 3/5 caravan guard that can attack, and a 6/5 Terry T. Of course, if you guys are more visual, you can check this out on the YouTube where you can see the picture of it. In hand, of note, we're at 5 power we're just at 5 power. In hand, we have a Smogwing Tinker, which is 6 cost 4/4 flyer. We have a 3 cost 2/3 Gravewatch Ancestor. You can pay 6 to give it plus X, where X is equal to the highest health of units in your void. Another 3/5 Caravan Guard, a 1/5 Siphoner Paladin that could sack a unit to create a 3/3 Relic Weapon, and then a 2/2 Flying Locust for 2. So, Collector, you're our guest, so you get first dibs. What are you looking to do here? Oh, I'm sorry, and one thing, I'm sorry. They played a Valiant Leap on the Willbreaker last turn to deal 6 damage in the air to us to put us at 4. So there is a Valiant Leap somewhere in their deck with Destiny and Revenge, which is +2/+2 flying and overwhelm.
Is there any other reality snaps left in the deck, or were all of them revenged already?
It was just the one. They snapped us, and then on their turn, it revenged.
Okay. And then,
so we have not seen a disappear or another revenge. Or I'm sorry, another snap yet, and I think they played one lightning strike.
Okay. Have you noticed any fast spell pauses?
The last turn they played Valiant Leap, so no, we haven't had a chance to identify a pause at this point.
Like after the leap, if they weren't tapped out, there would be another pause, right? So were they tapped out after that, or?
No. So there's no pause.
Okay. And then I guess the last question is, like, is this actually turn 6 where like they haven't missed a power drop, or have you guys like missed power drops for a few turns here?
We've missed power drops. I think we missed our 6 power for 4 turns by this point.
Okay, because yeah, like I know you just mentioned disappear, but they don't have quad time, so they would need a top deck and time source to be able to try to disappear there, right?
Correct.
So I think what I probably do here, let's see. So you said they have the fly +2/+2 flying overwhelm spell in their deck.
Yes.
That make that guy a 3/4, which is 6 to our face, and then if we block with the locust, obviously we don't die, but well, actually we do die if we block the locust, but
Correct.
So I think what I would do here is attack with Terrazon, see if they take the trade. If they do take it, that's fine. If they don't take it, they go to 2. And at that point, I play Siphoner Paladin, kill the 1/2, and play my Locust. And then, that's if they don't block it. If they do block it, I probably, take a similar line where I sack the Caravan Guard, kill the 1/2, and play my Locust.
Okay. And in both scenarios, you'd sack the Caravan Guard?
No, like on the line where they don't block the Terrazon, I sack the Terrazon.
Okay.
Like, they don't trade the Terrazon, rather.
Got you. Okay. All right. Okay. Sweet. That's locked in. That's pretty much, you think, the best 2 lines?
Well, think about it for another moment, that if they don't block, the leap on the 5/3 is still lethal anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it's not. I don't know. I think I'd attack to see if they trade. So because if they do, if they do trade, then you can stop leap from being lethal. If they don't trade, then obviously you can't stop leap from being lethal. So if they let it through, I think I actually like playing Paladin, no sack, and Locust. That way you get full blocks on their board, like Caravan Guard going in the 5/3, 1/5 blocking the 1/2, notably making it so that he can't shrink your Locust so it's lethal next turn, and then Locust can block the 1/5. And if they chump with the 1/5, then I probably just play the Caravan Guard to the Locust. And I'm locking all that in. I know that was a lot, but
No, I think it's fantastic. Absolutely great. All right, so we started with Alex. So let's send it over to you, John. What are you looking to do here?
Yeah, so I really liked. I like definitely attacking with the 6/5 here. I'm really thinking hard about ace spacing too for like a lethal attack, right? Like if you do that, the opponent has to block one of these. Let's see here. So you like if they just chump the 3/5 there, you get in for 6, and then your 2/2 is lethal. But then you still have a block. Like I don't know. I don't know that that's any better or worse. Like you're still just the fact that Valiant Leap is on its way, right? Really forces your hand here to do something. The conservative-ish line, like of just attacking with the 6/5 and leaving it kind of up to the opponent is like, I don't know. I think I would probably just attack with both of these guys here and then see what the opponent does. Maybe sacking the surviving 6/5, right? If they just kind of chump with the 1/5 and then finishing it off with the weapon and having the flyer to block could be enough there. And then the flyer is just a lethal attack if that's the case. I don't know if that's any better or worse than Collector's line there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it was an interesting line for sure, and the subsequent turns leading up to this was a little awkward because, as you can tell, our hand's full of 3s and a 6, and we just never had a good opening to play 2 things in one turn. and or obviously we would have been in a much better scenario if we could play the Smog Wing. So it was interesting navigating this. I do like how Collector mentioned sacking the Terrazon, because I'll be honest with you, that never crossed my mind, because I was like, that's our road to victory. But I do like.
I think that's like how I'll, in my mind, if the opponent blocks like I think they will, I think I'll end up sacking the Terrazon to the Paladin as well.
Yeah, and the reason why it probably never crossed my mind is, I'll be honest with you, and just instinctually, I can't identify a reason. I felt like they were going to 100% take that trade, to be honest with you. And I don't remember what led me to believe that, but I felt that. But before I say everything on my part, Alex, what are you looking to do here, my friend?
I mean, John and Collector gave a bunch of different lines there. I kind of like A spacing and just taking your chances, I guess. I'm like so torn on either just getting aggressive and hoping they make a mistake, trying to make them block wrong, or just just buckling down and not attacking and just building my board out, putting out the flyer. But you do have to get aggressive here. So A spacing and then waiting to try to use the weapon and killing the Terry T, your homie there, Jedi, might be the way to go after the fact, depending on how they block. Mm-hmm. But there's so many lines here. It's a pretty kind of just wish you had one more power type of situation.
Yep. And go ahead, Collector.
So, I don't know. The main reason why I wasn't A spacing is just because, if I am Jason, they know a lot of your hand from bouncing it, and they probably have determined you don't have a fast spell, just from how you had deposits on previous turns, or, that you're not just kind of jamming in there. So it just puts the 1/5 on your 3/5 and takes 6, and now you're down a blocker potentially. So, you're going to play your Siphoner and sack one of your dudes and probably kill the 1/2, but you're still dead to the leap anyway. And then then you're in a position where you might have to just chump.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. If he removes your Paladin, then you have to chump with your flyer, and you really don't want to do that. So
yeah, some of the other lines that came up that we were discussing in chat too. The thing about the A space as well is that they have the option to take 3 from the Caravan Guard and then just chump the 6/5 on their 1/5 Paladin, right, and still stay with the 5/3. Another option that I considered, or I didn't consider, I'm sorry, but the obvious things that they did exactly what we thought they were going to do. The 1/5 on the 3/5, so those kind of bounced, and then they traded the Battery Mage with the Terrazon. What we could have done after that as well, which is slightly greedy, is to play the Siphoner Paladin sacking the Caravan Guard to take out the Siphoner Paladin and still have the weapon the next turn to kill the Willbreaker, plus playing the Lotus. So between the weapon and the Lotus, that would have been enough life to survive the Valiant Leap should it come off the top. That was something else as well that we were playing around with. What I ultimately ended up doing is, because we missed power for so long, and the snap, and granted, there's absolutely no logic to this whatsoever. This was just kind of feeling, which it went against me because I always know I have bad luck. But I felt like we would have been in a much better position if we could play the Tinker and get a little more value off the weapon as well. And it's slightly greedy as well. So what I ended up doing is attacking with both to see what they would do, because we definitely wanted to get the 5/3 off the board, and sure enough they did. The 3/5 bounced off the Siphoner Paladin, and Terrazon killed the Battery Mage. And then I went Caravan Guard and Locust, which honestly I probably should have thought about it a little bit longer, but I get that nervous feeling while I'm on chat that I'm gonna rope at some point, so I kind of went with that. And then, of course, just for the sense of finality for everyone, they did immediately get the Valiant Leap off the top and just killed us. Exactsies.
What did you do with the Siphoner Paladin?
I didn't play it this turn. I was going to play it the following turn.
Yeah, you said they traded their Battery Mage with your 6/5?
Yeah. The Terrazon and the Battery Mage traded.
So you played the Guard.
Yeah, I played the Caravan Guard and the Locust.
I misheard you, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you would have played Paladin and killed the 1/2, you would have maybe not one necessarily, but you would have at least survived through the turn and got a
Yeah,
another turn.
because they would have Valiant Leap the Siphoner Paladin and then hit us, probably killing the load. Well, it's tradition, so I'm trying to think if I would have blocked. So we would have had the weapon at 1, so that would put us at 5 life with the Locust.
I'd just go to 2.
Yeah, I think I wouldn't have blocked either as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like looking back, I'm with you guys. I think the correct play was just to do exactly that, especially after the trade. I think I still would have attacked with the Caravan Guard just to throw it out there and see what happens, right? Because if we get additional damage, that's a little bit quicker. Maybe they couldn't afford to play that. I'm not sure. I think I still would have ace-based regardless, just to give them a few more options to mess up, essentially. But yeah, I think the correct play definitely was to play Siphon or Paladin. I guess the other question would have been to whether you sack the Locust or the Caravan Guard. Or, they traded. So yeah, that would have been the other layer, was to sacrifice the Locust or the Caravan Guard to Siphon or Paladin.
Definitely the Caravan Guard. Like,
Okay.
you have the ground game completely locked up with all your other X5s in your hand, and like they have a 1/5. If they just like top deck like their own Caravan Guard, like you're not breaking through anytime soon. So
Yep, fair. Sweet. So yeah, I got punished there for not taking the best line. And that, it is what it is. Sometimes for revenge works in your favor, sometimes it doesn't.
Yep.
So, but it was a fun little interaction. And I think there were so many lines that it was definitely worth talking about. So yeah, thanks for breaking that down, guys. I think it was great.
That's a good one.
yeah, the main thing was just trying to get your 6/5 to trade with their 5/3, so that way you could kill the 1/2 as well.
Yeah.
Which the best way to do that kind of depends on Jason, because he doesn't have to trade it off. So
Yeah, exactly. I think the biggest thing there, the quote unquote heads up play for them would have been just chumping the Terrazon with the 1/5, because then they would have had 2 different lethals on board with the double damage and then the 5/3, because the battery mage taking the +2/+2 and flying is good enough to kill us as well.
Mm-hmm.
All right, that's the What's the Play, which takes us to our final segment, which is Constructed Corner. And I really thought about having the Vision deck up here, since you could break it down really deep for us, Collector. But we've talked about it a couple times on the show. You guys talked about it on Sunny, so we're gonna go ahead and reach out to Jaral Crag by Doc28. This is a throne deck that they posted. They're using on ladder. They say it's a little funsies, maybe not the most competitive thing, but I don't know, it looks pretty solid to me, actually. So I figured I'd bring it up, show them a little support. And John is always a fan of Skycrag as well. This is 40,550 Shiftstone, if you, not including campaign cards as usual. Breaking down the list really quickly: 4 Primal Etchings, 4 Torch, 4 Dazzle, 4 Jaral Ascending, 4 Mavloth Huntress, 4 Petition, 4 Seer, 4 Genev Merchant, 3 Mirror Image, 2 Skyward Seer, 1 Honor the Claws, 4 Kenna Uncontained, 4 Jotun Hurler, 1 End of Hostilities, 3 Helio the Skywinder, 4 Primal Sigil, 4 Cobalt Waystone, 4 Crest of Fury, 4 Primal Symbol, 1 Skycrag Banner, 4 Skycrag Silex, 4 Skycrag Insignias, with a market consisting of Lightning Storm, Reread, Royal Decree, Garden of Omens, and Scourge of Frostholm. All right, which one are you, Collector? Anything about this deck kind of stands out to you or anything like that?
I've actually versed it on ladder a couple of times recently. I don't like the Skyward Seers in the deck, just from playing against it a few times. You rarely actually get to trigger the spark. I know you have like snowballs and things that can do it, but snowballs often have to be pointed at units and not their face, or they have face ages. So I would probably replace those with like maybe more Honor Claws or something. I'm not really sure, but I think it's a fun little deck. If you don't have the cards already, I wouldn't recommend crafting it, just because new set's about to drop, meta's about to change a lot. Wait on crafting anything until that happens. But if you have the cards, feel free to try it out. It looks fun enough.
Sweet. John?
It's so funny that that's what Collector had to say, because I had like looking at the list, the first thing I was like Skyward Seer, and I'm looking at the flying package of cards to fetch, and I'm just going, is that really worth it? I like maybe just more card draw, or so he basically said the exact same thing I was thinking just at a glance. So I guess I feel pretty good about that because Collector's the best. And the only other thing that kind of stands out is like the 4 torch and 4 seer. I don't know if I've really played a deck with that, and then it also has like the 4 huntress and all that. That's got to just be a meta call. I haven't actually like piloted this list out on the ladder, so I assume this is tuned for the current meta, so that's probably fine. But yeah, like I also was wondering about the Skyward Seers there, but I mean, obviously it's to get the Kennas and the Helios, but
yeah,
it's just like he said, it's not like you're incidentally guaranteeing spark every turn, and yeah, I think you'll just draw one of those naturally with a Skycrag shell usually.
if I had to take a stab at it, and once again, I haven't seen this deck play or played it myself, I feel like part of that spark package is why he has the torches and the seers, because both those can go to the face. But the other thing is maybe like draw with 8 influence, right? Because then you can play the torch to kill something, draw will ping them, and then that like I mean, I'm guessing I'm definitely like digging deep, but I feel like that might be part of the synergy as well. Obviously, Collector mentioned the snowballs. The other thing that I personally like to see when I have something like a tutor effect like Skyward Seer is a little bit, and it might be my fault because I like toolboxy decks, right? But maybe a couple more one-ofs, like maybe an island or a Thunderstrike Dragon, you know what I mean? Like one-ofs to kind of, if you're gonna go have a specific, if you can get any card you want, essentially.
I tend to go overboard with that though, but yeah, I get exactly what you're saying.
They are only playing 2 seers. Like Doc cut one of them already for an honor clause. If you look at like his change log, so maybe if there are 4 seers, I like the toolbox package could be more relevant. But with only 2 of them, like it's just probably not worth it.
Fair. It makes me sad they cut the Jotun Feast Caller. That was one of I'm personally a big fan of that cycle of cards, like all the 3 influence cards that do something when they attack and they get better.
Yeah, the diesel cycle.
Oh, is that what they are?
That's what the name was back then. I don't know if people still use that.
I haven't heard that.
Yeah, that's super cool. Bang, the more you know. The diesel, I like that. That's super cool. We were actually just talking about Millie earlier today. Yeah.
Is that? I guess that is one of those, isn't it?
Yeah, all of them. It's the Tyrant, the Behemoth, Feast Caller, Amelie, and what's the fire one? What's the fire? Oh gosh darn it. It deals right? Wait, what is the fire one? Is it Jack? It gives you like a weapon? Wait, what is the fire one?
I think I can't remember the diesel cycle. Yeah, Jack Hunted Fugitive.
Yeah, there you go. That's right. He gives a +1/+1 to all his attacking guys.
The other one's Jack? That seems like I would have never guessed that.
5-cost 7/5 quick draw Jack.
Yeah, there you go. That's right. I knew there was one. I was like, I was thinking Furno deal one. Yeah. No, the Tyrant deals more damage and it has lifesteal. Jotun Feast Caller draws you more cards and Millie makes you a bigger Valkyrie. What am I missing?
Tech buffs your entire attacking team.
Yeah, it's so good. Oh, I drafted it like twice. It's so good. And then
really good with Oni Quartermaster.
Ooh, oh my god, that feels busted. That's it. I'm gonna make a deck just to abuse that. Oh, that sounds so amazing. And then do like Skycrag so you can just mirror image it or Sudden Schism. Oh yes, it's happening. Oh, the jankness, it's happening. All right, cool, sweet, thanks, Doc, appreciate it. And then Alex, what's the scoop for mono red, for you, buddy? Climbing ladder.
What?
You climb with mono red, man. What's your brew this week? What kind of modifications have you done to your mono red?
No, I need to tweak it. I'm having the worst of luck with mono red and Skycrag. So
really, they nerfed Blight Moth. It should be good now.
I haven't been doing too well in the constructed ladders, but I don't really care about that.
I've gotten wrecked a couple of times by like this aggro Grenadins where they're running the spark one or whatever. When it dies, it deals 3 damage, and then they're running what else are they? They're running the volatile Grenadin, right? But then they but I think they run 4 of Touch of Force. So, you know,
Oh yeah.
so they'll like double damage both Grenadins. So you're like, yeah, bro, take 6 and then take 8. It's like,
Get wrecked, Jedi.
oh yeah. I'm like, oh, this is fine. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh god, I'm at like 8. Yeah,
Opponents are styling on you.
yeah, no joke. You know, right? Because of course, if you want to see what your deck can do in a nut draw, just play against Jedi. All right, well, that's going to do it for our constructed corner. And then thank you so much for reminding me, Collector. A shout out to, I should have made a note because there are 2 things that you reminded me. First thing is Telemokos is bringing back the Tuesday Night Eternal tournament series. So definitely check that out. Go to, I'm not sure exactly which Discord he hangs out in, but you could probably check them all out.
He's posting in most, all the ones we mentioned earlier.
Yeah, to include ours. Yeah, to include ours. So definitely join one of the Discords. Check out the details. He's got the full season up, and he's splitting it up. He will have the standard US Tuesday night stream tournaments. So I'll probably be participating in those on my stream because it's during my schedule. But he's also doing Fridays at a time that is convenient for our overseas players. So both, all time zones are going to have a chance to compete in this tournament. So definitely check that out with a season finisher or season ending tournament invitational. There you go. That's the word I'm looking for.
I believe the Fridays is 1 p.m. UTC.
Excellent. Thank you. Yeah, John told me it's like 4 or 5 o'clock our time in the morning.
7 hours from now.
8 a.m. Eastern.
Yep. So, I'll be at work, so I won't be able to do it anyways. So yeah, definitely tune into that. Man, I'm trying to remember there was something else I wanted to mention. I'm drawing a blank now. I think it was a shout out to somebody or something. Just repeat everything you just said for the last 10 minutes, Collector, and then I could
tell you why that one cycle is called the diesel cycle.
Oh yes, please do.
There were like 2 reasons. One, like how they kind of wind up slowly is like similar to like a diesel engine. The other one is because, there are all 3 faction cards, the Triple X movie with Vin Diesel in it.
Okay.
Oh, wow. That's digging deep. Nice. Cool. I think it's super neat. Like, I'm going to hold on to that from now on. I think it's super cool. Like, diesel cards. Now, if I make the Amelie deck, I'll be like flying diesel flyers or something. I don't know. I'll figure it out.
This whole time I thought you guys said the Diesel cycle, and I was trying to figure out how. Now I get it.
The thumbnails just could be like Optimus Prime with Valkyrie wings on them or something.
Looking forward to that.
Oh man, that's great. All right, sweet. Gosh, I can't believe there was something else I need to mention that you
edited in post.
Yeah, I guess. I'll probably just leave it as is. I'm sure it'll come to me at some point. All right, but that's gonna do it. Collector, man, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been an absolute oh yeah, new set. That's what it was. I just remembered. Yep. Hey, because we haven't mentioned it. There's a new set coming out. Yay, we finally got it.
Oh yeah.
So December 14th. Yep, December 7th, they're gonna have the preview event. So we'll have our current draft format with the commons and uncommons from the new set coming out or mixing in there or whatnot, and that'll be for a week, and then they will release the full set December 14th. So much like what Collector said, make sure you guys are saving up your shift zone, your draft tickets and stuff like that, so you guys can get a leg up when the set released. A bunch of cool stuff happening. They're already kind of spoiling a bunch of factionless cards and whatnot. So most likely our schedule for the future, next week's show will be our sunset show, sending off Argent Depths with a farewell, and then hopefully it'll line up to where the full set will be released. So next show will be our sunset show, then the show after that will be our commons and uncommon set review. So grab a cup of coffee, maybe a TV dinner or something if people still have those, and sit down and relax because it's going to be a long one. And even though we have gotten better about that, and then the following after that will be our rares and legendaries review. And finally, after that will be our first impressions of the new draft format. So sweet, there you go. Our whole next month is lined up for us. Yay.
All right.
All right. Finally. So that is going to do it. Collector, thank you. Thank you for coming on the show. You are great, man. The community really appreciates you. You're fantastic. You are awesome. Like what John said, congratulations on making it to Worlds yet again and having a super deep run. You're awesome. Thank you.
Thanks. I had fun again, so I'll come on when you guys want me to, so just not on a permanent basis.
Aw. Fine. I need someone to replace me for a week or two. All right. That's going to do it, guys. John, Alex, thank you guys so much for being on the show. Appreciate you guys. And
Thank you.
Nice. All right.
Thank you again, Collector. Sweet.
What was that?
I said thank you again, Collector. Congrats on back-to-back top fours. Pretty amazing, man.
Thank you. It was a lot of grinding, a lot of help for my team, so.
All right. Well, that's going to do it, guys. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Until next time, as always, happy gaming.
Good luck in your draft, everyone.